Hey everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Deckin Around the Plug. Today we are really excited to have the Gentleman Wake and Lotrek on to talk about the currently live Kickstarter campaign for The Tale of the Tempest. Before we jump into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
And ring the bell.
So, Gentleman Wake, Lotrek, how you guys doing today?
Fellas.
Good.
Great.
We are genuinely
Welcome to the
so
show.
excited. Yeah, we're so pumped to have you on the show. I think this is first off, the campaign is so long awaited. To actually see it live and doing so well is really exciting. But to have a chance to talk to you guys both about the process you've been through for this, the deck itself, the development, and everything that went into this, we're thrilled.
Yeah, it's actually been pretty surprising in a lot of ways. Obviously we had I had a previous campaign. Lotrek was a part of that actually with the parlor that was very successful. Beyond our wildest expectations at the time, and obviously I knew from the minute we funded on the parlor that there would be a follow up to the parlor someday.
Nice.
And just over time we kind of we fulfilled the parlor. We had a lot of conversations back and forth, and I just thought to myself, what a great way to follow up the parlor than having Lotrek be the one to design it. I mean, Lotrek's obviously a master designer with a ton of amazing projects under his belt. So for me, it was a no-brainer. And I had already worked with him to the degree that he had designed. He had printed the tuck box that Lorenzo Gaggiotti had designed for the parlor. So he's always familiar with the way the TGW brand had kind of started. So it was easy in that respect. And definitely also completely unexpected to how the phenomenal first day that we had was just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't ask for somebody better to kind of, jump in and kind of carry the brand even further, because I feel like Lotrek is kind of in that same kind of aspect that you are, that really classy and elegant kind of design.
Well, I mean, we should probably mention Lotrek and I, the way we met in terms, right? In electronic, modern terms, was because I'm a collector first and foremost. Okay, so I'm sure I know for a fact a lot of the guests you have on this channel are magicians, masterful magicians, masterful cardists. I am not that.
You're masterful compared to me and Tyler.
Yeah, I practice to the extent that I want the videos that I make to look like they're put together by somebody who knows something of what they're doing. Okay, I use a lot of camera angles and a lot of tricks of the trade, right, to make myself look better than I am. But ultimately, I'm not a master cardist or a master magician or any of the sort. I'm a collector first. And what that meant,
you're a master collector.
I'm a master, absolutely master collector. I'll take that any day of the week, right? So in my mind, when I was curating my collection, and I stumbled across the work of Lotrek, it was undeniable, right? Like the style, the elegance, the motifs, the execution of those motifs. Forget about the technical stuff, right? Because he's been innovating on deck design for longer than I've been on YouTube, right? So it's been a while, right? He's been kicking ass in that respect, right? So his registration, the gold foil, the back, it was just, I mean, I was in awe of his work from the very beginning. So what did I do? Of course, first chance I got to order one of his decks in pre-order, I did, right? And that was the Arabesque deck, right?
I remember your first order. I saw your name, Omar Chavez Jr. I said, who's that guy?
Never heard of this guy, right? Never heard of this guy. Came out of nowhere.
That's a strange name.
Yeah.
You actually think his name was Gentleman Wake?
Yeah. Exactly. By the way, to anyone who doesn't know, my real name is Omar, and it's Gentleman Wake. Although my PSN handle has been Wake for 20 years, right? So everybody, somebody just saying, "Hey, Wake," I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" So we'll talk about that a little later because it's a funny story. But anyway, the point is that here we were, I was making deck reviews. I was trying to do the most cinematic, entertaining deck reviews that I possibly could come up with, right? And I bought Lotrek's first deck, right? The first deck that for my, experience in my collection of his, and it was the Arabesque deck. and it just so happens to have been an error deck, right? Lotrek, remember that the three of spades was the three of clubs on the deck for some reason. Those like 2 3 of clubs, even in the middle of the deck were different. But it was fantastic because it was $100 deck, and it was $100 mistake. And what better story to inject into a very first deck review about introducing a brilliant designer to the world than to say, hey, is this $100 mistake or the most beautiful deck you've ever seen?
Yeah.
And that's how
if you want to get a decent mistake, you have to pay.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It was limited to 100 decks or something like that, and it was pretty phenomenal. It was fun, and that was his first interaction, I think, with me, because I think I sent him a link. So I'm like, hey, check this out or whatever. And he looked at me and he flipped out. He was like, oh my God, thank you so much. Because just like Lorenzo had done when I approached him about House of the Rising Spade, it was like, okay, this is a new way of doing things compared to how things have been done, right? And I'm not claiming to be some grand innovator or anything like that. But what I did was bring the 20 years of production and TV experience to the world of deck reviews, right?
Yeah.
Of playing card enthusiasts. And so having that be an introduction of sorts to the people that I ended up working with was fantastic. And in a way it sets the stage, right? Because they know the quality that I bring or that I try to bring. Okay, again, I'm not tooting my own horn, but they know the attention to detail that I try to bring to every single thing that I do because they can see it. They may not understand the specifics of it, but they're artists, so they see it. They understand the level of intensity that I bring, and I know Lotrek knows how intense I am.
I know it very well.
Yeah, he knows it very well.
I wish I didn't
as well, because that intensity is what breeds the product, right? And so number one, it was a great introduction to the designers for my audience, and it was a great introduction for me to the designers because they got to know who I was that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a very long-winded response. Sorry to
no, dude, that's what this show
that was
all
perfect.
about.
Yeah,
We're all about long wind, man.
Yeah.
It fits with the theme of the deck, the long wind.
Oh yeah,
the water.
the Tempest.
And so, talking about the deck, I think for anyone who hasn't seen it, if we want, we can show the trailer real quick. Everyone can check out the masterful work that Omar really does bring to not only the trailer here, but all of his reviews.
Thank you.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so let's check it out.
Let's see.
To my dearest Eliza, in the fortnight since this terrible storm laid the limits of our ship to bare, I've had much time to reflect. Although it pained me greatly to leave you behind, my calling could not be denied. I've no illusions that the mysteries I've sought, ones worthy of a magician with the name the Great Wylenti, would be easily found. But now I fear that overconfidence has caused me to mistake the eye of the storm for the calm. You see, you were always the magic I sought, and now, with no way to reach you, I put myself at the mercy of the sea, and hope that this bottle, which carries my heart within it, will herald my return. For I believe the ocean will carry us home, wave upon wave of the bluest seas, propelling us towards the warmth of the setting sun, and we will regale anyone who tolerates to listen with the story of our magical triumph. The tale of the Tempest. With all my love, TGW.
There you go.
That was phenomenal.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
I have to
Just
say
so
too,
good.
I think that that riffle fan at the end just fit in so perfectly, and you're just set in this mood, and all of a sudden it's bam! It was it's so amazing.
You know what the cool thing? You know what the cool thing is Tyler sees the riffle fan, which obviously the riffle fan always looks amazing. The one thing that really popped in my eyes is the whole punch in on the Tempest deck at that one point. When you just did the punch in on the red one.
Yeah,
that's the thing that got me.
Such an amazing campaign.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Number one, like I mentioned before, and I don't know if I really elaborated on this. Thank you very much for having us on. Number one, okay.
Of course, our pleasure. Yeah.
I love the cards community, the cards enthusiast community. And that includes magicians, that includes cardists, that includes collectors, that includes designers, okay? Because I think, and that even includes the YouTubers who make content surrounding it, or content creators that make content surrounding it. That this community has grown immensely in the last couple of years, and I think we are starting to reach a level of sophistication that's going to put us on the par of other kind of communities that have been around a little longer, which is super important for me, okay? So thank you very much again from the bottom of our hearts. I think it's very cool that you do this, that you allow other creators and other individuals, designers, artists, magicians, cardists to come on your show to talk about what they love, because ultimately that's number one in my book. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for coming on. Honestly, we love the opportunity to just, like you said, the cool thing about what you do is it gave you an opportunity to meet all these designers and meet all these people. Same thing for us. We love doing this show because we get to meet so many amazing people who, at the end of the day, I think, the one thing Steve and I always say is that creators present this, outward appearance, but there's so much more depth behind what you just see there. And that's what we really want to bring to people who watch this show, is getting to know who Omar is, who Lotrek is, who all of these people we have on are, not just the deck. And obviously, for this episode, we're going to be talking a lot about the deck, but I think it also gives such a great insight into, what drives you to create these decks, what drives Lotrek to come up with new, amazing printing techniques and all these kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely, most definitely, and I think a certain part of that is, and to get back on the subject of the trailer, it's interesting because that particular this particular project, although it's been a year in the making, right? Sometimes, no matter how long you take to do something, the ideas maybe come in a flurry, right? Like when you're not ready for them, right? You're like, okay. I think we're going to go this route, and I remember on I don't know if you guys had a chance to catch it, but we did a live stream for the launch of the campaign, and in that live stream, Lotrek and I went through the history of the different Tempest decks, right? The different Tempest variations that had existed prior to the one that is now, on the campaign, right?
Yeah.
And that process was illustrative of that kind of flurry of creativity that happens sometimes when you put creative people in the same digital room together, whatever together, and they start playing off each other and manifesting new ideas. So the trailer was a microcosm of that, right? Why? Because I didn't get the prototypes until 8 p.m. the night before. Yeah.
Wait a minute, did Lotrek send them out late?
Honestly, well, in his defense, we were making changes, we were tweaking. Things happen, but we were pushing, and we fought.
You had been warned.
Yeah, I knew.
What the crazy that's the crazy thing with Lotrek is he sets the pace in the beginning. He's like, your stuff's gonna be late. Like you can't you can't get mad because he says it in the beginning. And if you jump on ship, another pun there. If you jump on board, like he warned you.
Yeah. At the end of the day, whatever inconveniences are well worth the
yes.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Kudos to you, my friend. So regardless, I get the deck like 12 hours before this thing has to go live.
Jesus.
And I can't even start the trailer right away. I've got to start taking photographs. Okay. And Lotrek was up with me all night that night. We did not sleep. Okay. The night before, when you see me on that live stream, it's on 26 hours of no sleep.
Oh man.
Lotrek was we couldn't print types
in 60 hours.
Yeah.
I slept only 2.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, but you know what? Omar probably gets sleep normally. For you probably normally don't get sleep. So when you say that, it doesn't really. To me, I'm just like whatever. He never sleeps. But someone like Omar, I mean, come on.
So I get the deck. I have to start creating images, right? So here's the crazy thing. In the interim, this is what happens with Flurry of Ideas. In the interim time between him sending me a prototype and me receiving it, we came up with an entirely new idea.
Yeah.
The deck was going to be somewhat monochromatic, the initial version, and Lotrek, hold up the Dust edition there for a second. I saw you had it in your hand there earlier. Yeah. So the initial deck was not going to be colored this way. Okay.
Yeah.
This is an idea Lotrek had after he sent me the prototypes he had already printed. Okay.
Yeah.
So it sends me prototypes that are already obsolete by the time I get them in my hands. So what that means is I have to take photographs, send the photographs to him so that he can digitally alter the photographs.
Yeah.
To be representative of the final design, which is held up. Okay.
Yeah.
So
which was again changed after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's always tweaks, right? But the point is
because we have metallic inks now.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, we unlocked metallic inks as one of our stretch goals. So now it's time to start. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lotrek.
Yeah. When you love what you do, it's very difficult to say that, okay, that's enough now.
Yeah.
Because if there is something even little, even tiny, that does not fit well, you cannot rest until you solve it.
Yeah, agreed.
It's not that, okay, this guy commissioned the deck to me, he said it's okay, I'm sending the files, and okay,
right,
I go do something else. When you love your work, you want it to be perfect till the last detail.
Yeah,
and this takes time. And sometimes I keep changing the things in my mind after the deck is printed.
Now, Omar, I have a question for you, and I mean, I don't know if this is just me, because I'm dealing with a deck right now, and did you ever feel like, obviously you've created 2 decks with 2 very big artists, but or designers, I should say. Do you ever feel bad going back and forth so much? Like when you see something, you're like, no, change this, no, change it, no, change, like just constantly, because obviously you have a high level of, let's say, perfection in mind, right? And you do take so much pride in your work. Do you feel bad when you, I guess some people will call it nitpicking?
There's so many layers to this. And
right.
Layer number 1 is thank you for recognizing that, right? Because I think there's an initial hurdle, right? With like myself as a producer of decks, right? I don't design the decks specifically.
Right.
Therefore, what am I really doing, right? Like, am I just hiring somebody to do it for me? Am I including anything? Am I adding anything to the project? I remember reading a comment one time, because I talked about another designer and artist that I would like to work with one day, and somebody, unbeknownst to them, they didn't realize that I was lurking in the channel, said, what could he possibly bring to a deck by X designer? You know? And I took that to heart. That stuck with me, and it will stick with me. And when that designer and I work together, I'll be sure to take a little bit of secret satisfaction. Okay, but that's number 1. So thank you for recognizing that producers do have a partake in the process of the creativity of the design. Okay. Secondarily, I'm the kind of person that I cannot stay quiet.
Right.
So, and Lotrek can attest to this. Like, I will bother him. If something bothers me, I will say something, and I will, and it, with him, he's a brilliant designer. He surprises me. That's part of the process. That's the amazing things. Lorenzo did the same thing on Parlor. They will bring you something that you didn't expect, based on a comment that you made, right? So it's a collaboration, it's a true collaboration. Like when we were going through the different card back iterations, right? There was one iteration that Lotrek sent me that sparked an idea in my head. I was like, okay, what if there was a big TGW? And I remember I sketched it. I used the Instagram live feed thing to use like a quick sketch over the design. And obviously I didn't post it to the focus stuff. I didn't post it to my Instagram live. Rather, I just took a screen grab of it and I sent it to him. I said, hey, how's this, right? And I wasn't thinking the elaboration of what he ended up creating, right, which is more or less the back design now, which is the incorporation of that TGW logo, which obviously is perfect. but it's those little interplays, those little things where you come up with an idea. This is how we might be able to make it a little better, and then the artist runs with it and comes back to you with something that you didn't even imagine, right?
Yeah.
So and then it's that constant back and forth. And when you have two people who are creative, that's what happens. Like just recently, we're a spoiler alert for the folks that watching this chat. Lotrek and I are working on the Dynastiny tuck box, which is going to be spectacular. And even throughout the process of the Dynastiny tuck box, we've had those moments, right, where Lotrek will show me something. I'll be like, hey, what if you did this? And he's like, oh shit, that's a good idea. And then he goes back and he does something, and it's just a constant cycle of feeding of that.
It's 100% collaboration. It's not that Omar has commissioned me a work to do. He didn't say, okay, I want a deck called the Tale of the Tempest, do your stuff.
Right.
His remarks are, this is what I was telling Steve and Tyler before we go live, that your remarks are precious. They spark creativity. They are on point because you know your stuff. So we are really doing this deck together.
Yeah.
I'm doing the drawings, but the discussions we have, the little things that we doubt about, etc. All this is a process that we go through together.
Right. I think there's a big difference though with,
and he really is a pain in the ass.
But here's the good thing, the cool thing about it, and this is just the way I look at it, is if you have, so Omar's a creative, right? It's what he does for a living, right? He does media. He's a creative, and when you are a creative and that's the way you normally work, you're going to be involved way more heavily than someone that just has an idea and just wants something produced. So there is a big difference between producers in decks. Some people do just send an idea to someone and say, I want to do this, create something. And there are those people, and I think we see that in the decks when they're done. And then I think you have people that are collaborating, that are true creatives. And that's where, you are going to get a lot of that collaboration, that back and forth. And, I'm sure you're both assholes, but that is what makes, that's what makes a campaign. That's what makes a campaign hit $130,000. And that's the difference between something that just reaches its goal at $6,000, so there's a big difference in the outcome of a deck based on the collaboration and the work that gets put into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I will say that one of the principal things in my mind, one of the foremost things in my mind from the very beginning, right? From the day I published my first video was the TGW as a brand, right? Like people talk about this all the time. It's a buzzword. It's obnoxious. Okay. But unfortunately, there's no other way to talk about it. And it needs to be spoken about, right? Which is this idea that when you create something, both playing cards, Stockholm 17, the Gentleman Wake, you are creating a brand. Deckin Around, there's a brand of Deckin Around, right? And you have to curate that brand. You have to. It's almost like a museum. You have to be very cognizant of what you hang on the walls of your building. Okay, and to me, that's the number one motivator, the number one driver. How the heck am I going to have something with the TGW brand on it that I'm not 1,000% proud of? That would be a mistake. And you know what? Maybe I'm not 1,000% proud of every video I put on there, but things happen. And Lotrek, just as he mentioned, sometimes he has ideas after something's published. It happens. There are changes, but you need to feel good and proud of what you're putting, the things that you're putting into the world, because ultimately it's a reflection of you and your brand, right? So if I've had any level of success to this point, the whatever modest or unmodest or immodest successes I've had, okay, it's been because I believe in that, and I firmly believe that is the way to do things, right? That you have to bring that level of quality to everything that you do. So a lot of it is gonna feel like I'm a bit of an asshole if I'm like, hey, this is great, but.
But you got to change this line,
right? Like I'm right now. I'm dealing with a manufacturer for a metal card back. right? And I posted a preview on my Instagram live, right, of the height map, right, of like they're doing like a 3D rendering of our 2-dimensional design, and obviously that takes a little bit of work, and I had to take Lorenzo's files. Lorenzo, unfortunately, he's so busy doing other things for this campaign that there was no way for me to rely on him to do something. I had to do it myself. So I brought it into Photoshop, and I'm like drawing the height map because these people aren't getting it. They're not getting it, and I'm not going to stand for them not getting it. Like, they're going to get it, and that means that I have to do something that I'm uncomfortable doing, and send it to them and berate them. And you should see the emails. I mean, I'm not even nice. I'm sorry. It's because at this point I need them to do the job and do it right. Like one of the things is like, hey, you need to make this red, and it comes back and it's purple. It's like, that's not what I said.
Yeah,
I said red.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff that really infuriates me. But with
I feel you, man.
that doesn't happen like that. Usually, it's like, hey, man, I've got an idea, and he comes back with something brilliant. So.
Yeah, it's and I mean, obviously, as you guys know, it's I mean, and even Tyler and I have the same thing, but or Tyler's even noticed, me with it. But when any creative, the minute you do something and you put it out into the world, the next day you want to change it. It could be a new website, it could be a new video, it could be a new design. The minute you put it out, you're like, dang, that's old. I don't even like it anymore. Like, I gotta change it. I just finished my website and I already want to change it. So
it's like crippling insecurity.
Yeah.
I mean, I put something into the world and I'm like, oh God, what did I do? I life. The minute I pushed publish on the video, on the trailer we just saw. Okay.
Yeah.
The second I pushed publish on that video, I turned to my wife and I looked at her and I said, what did I just do? Like, mishmash of like random ideas. Are people going to think I'm crazy? Who's this big Valenti guy? Like, what am I doing? Now, my wife's name is Liza. The character and his love in the story is Eliza, right? But, and a little bit of a homage to Hamilton, which I love. But so having that like moment of
this is Valenti.
Yes, exactly. That moment of panic that kind of washed over me, like, oh God, this is terrible. Like, this is like the worst video. Like, I just threw it together on no sleep hours.
Dude, that's the best time. That's what's
going to represent my campaign. Like,
dude, that's the best time.
Are we even going to fund? Like, this is literally thanks to my wife. So,
dude, honestly, you've probably done your best work on no sleep. That's when the creatives do their best work, when they're like 50 hours in, no sleep. They've eaten a whole mushroom pizza. They're like sitting at their desk and they're like, I've been looking at this for 27 hours. And I mean, that's when they.
Do you know what happens that when there is a time limit,
exactly,
and you have to finish
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You stop wondering, should I do this? Should I do the other? Should I? You just decide, and if you're good at your work, it comes together.
Yeah,
and
true.
You're very vigilant. At those moments.
And also, Lotrek, doesn't limitation breed creativity?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So the time limit can sometimes make you do things creatively. Like, oh man, I don't have time to do what I really want to do, but wait a second, I had an idea.
Yeah. Yes. As I always say, invention comes from necessity, and limitation brings creativity.
Yeah.
If you leave me completely free, and if you say do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
Yeah, and let me tell you, like the oh shit moment.
There are so many possibilities. You have to narrow it down. You have to say, I will do this and this and this. I will use 3 colors, for example. I will do only custom, only standard cards or whatever. You have to have some limitations, and within those limitations, you can be absolutely free.
Right.
This is a great feeling.
and there's also that moment of there's nothing more that motivates me as an artist more than the, oh shit, I'm running out of time.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely.
Right? Because
Yeah.
it happens with us, right? Like, hey, Lotrek, if you don't have this deck in my hands by Thursday at whatever time, there will be no video. You know, so it's like, oh shit, right? Like, I can curse, right?
Yeah.
You're good.
We're past 10 minutes. We're good.
All right. So the point is like, you know, having that moment of like panic that washes over you as an artist, as a creative.
Yeah.
Is
It's-
I don't know about you. I don't really like that. Yes, it's what happens all the time to me, but I don't like it. I really relax.
Dude,
I want to have my time to take my.
none of us like it. So Lotrek, here's the crazy
And
thing.
I hate being late. There's nothing I hate more in the world than being late, and I'm always late.
Well, dude, you want to hear something crazy? So here's the funny thing. So Tyler is brilliant. He's amazing at statistics. He's the numbers guy. He is amazing at things I am terrible at. Right? I'm terrible at. But Tyler's not the creative side, right? Like the photography, the media. Like he's not the creative side. And it's funny because
despite the beard.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I'm crazy. Yeah, well, that's just I let it go. So
you know that, and so the crazy thing is I am the one who is always late on that stuff. So he'll be like, "Dude, I need a thumbnail for the picture video that we're doing in 3 minutes."
yeah.
So where Omar or Lotrek, you guys kind of understand the whole late thing that is, you know, the creatives get. Tyler gets kind of like angry about it, so I'm like, I need to do this.
I mean, we have had it where I've thrown a thumbnail together in 3 minutes because Steve's like, "Oh man, I forgot and I'm out." I'm like, "Oh my god, dude." So I do get it.
Yeah,
the funny
he's
thing
gotten
is
better.
that when I reflect on, okay, I send a deck or I finish a job after a long time. When I'm thinking about it, I say, how did I manage to delay it that much? It was not so terrible work. Okay, what did I do? Why did it take me 3 weeks?
It's called perfection. It's called you're a perfectionist.
And look, and as an artist, I know this happens. Like sometimes you're like over it, right? You need to take a break. You need to like just relax for a second and do other things.
Yes, that's the reason. You just need to stop for a while and just go for a walk.
Yeah.
A 3-day walk or a week walk or
however it ended up happening. However, you know, we arrived at a spot where I think, you know, both of us are very proud of the deck, right? The Tale of the Tempest. We're extremely happy with what we're putting together, and you know,
we're not finished yet.
Last minute video aside, we're also extremely pleased with how the campaign has kind of you know, developed, and obviously we had a phenomenal first day. We got over $84,000 of funding in just our first day.
So good.
And we funded in 4 minutes, which was astronomical. I mean, and really a testament to the community. And I think the best kind of testimonial is from a customer is one that is a repeat customer, right? So these are the people who backed the Parlor came back and they backed the Tempest, and you know, like Lotrek mentioned, we still have some other surprises to go. We're halfway through the campaign. I know it feels like it's been forever, like we've been doing this. The campaign should just about be. It's not. There's still half the time left, and we have some really cool things coming. I mentioned the metal card guard. So somebody asked, it's supposed to be a cut card. No, it's a card guard. It's a chunky, heavy, 3mm thick metal card that you can use as a weight to kind of hold your cards. You can also use it as a display piece. You can have it, you know, on your shelf for your desk. It's very, very cool. We have the Dynastine deck. Obviously, Dynastine is the scientific name for the rhinoceros beetle.
Rhinoceros.
Yeah. So the rhinoceros beetle is, of course, the TGW mascot. He makes an appearance on the Parlor. He makes an appearance on this deck. He will make an appearance on every deck with the TGW branding from now to the end of time. And,
Nice.
And the
How did that happen?
how did that
How
happen?
did it-
I'll talk to you about that in a sec. The Dynastinae is the scientific name. So just like we had a Dynastinae Parlor edition, we're going to have a Dynastinae Tempest edition, and that is being worked on, and we are going to unveil that hopefully soon.
Nice.
In fact, I have not seen it. And I may not see it until we unveil it. I think it'll be fun. Lotrek and I have talked about doing a live stream. We don't know when exactly, but it's going to happen before the campaign wraps up, obviously, because we want people to have time to add that to their pledges if they so desire. But
Nice.
that one will also be limited to 777, which is how many we did for the Parlor Dynastiny. And then there's
Nice.
another deck. There's one other deck that we are working on, which is an ultra limited 200 edition size Lotrek special, where he literally is, no stops here. This is like all out full Lotrek, where he's bringing together, his brilliant ideas of design and marrying them to the production techniques that he is famous for. And honestly, this particular 200 limited 200 deck is, it's going to be a tough get. It's going to be, considering 100 of them are already pre-designated for the premium tier backers.
Right.
So that's going to be fun. And then we have some other little things that come in. We're going to have a gaff pack at some point. We may not even get to it during the campaign. We just have so much to do. We're still working on the custom brick box. That's going to be fantastic. So for anybody who's in a brick tier, they're going to love this because it's going to be sealed.
Yay.
We're already discussing like how the artwork is going to feel. Like it's just going to be its own thing. It's going to be a beautiful project.
Nice.
And we also have, we haven't even talked about the interior foiling that we have ideas for. We haven't manifested yet because we're just so busy getting everything up to speed. And then on top of that, we have the custom seals that are going to go on the bottom of the treasured and midnight editions that are going to be hand numbered. So, just a lot of stuff coming, and some of the stuff, unfortunately, we might not even get to before the end of the campaign, which is very unfortunate considering that all that stuff helps to sell more interest in the campaign. But I think the big ones that we figure will move the needle are, obviously the Dynastinae, this other edition that shall remain nameless for now, and the card guard. I think those are all things that are flashy enough and substantial enough is the word I'm looking for, that people will really be excited about.
That's awesome. That's exciting.
Yeah, cool. And Lotrek, to answer your question about the Dynastinae, the rhinoceros beetle, when I was putting together the Gentleman's Study, which is a space where I shoot my normal videos. One of the things I was really drawn to was like this idea of like the English Victorian kind of era. Like I really wanted something that felt like Sherlock Holmes, where Sherlock Holmes might live, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that Sherlock Holmes has in his apartment is taxidermied beetles, right? Taxidermied insects, this is part of his natural curiosity. So I wanted to do something similar to that. My wife wouldn't let me have a taxidermy beetle, but I bought this like this paperweight, right? It's a paperweight. It's acrylic. It's like an acrylic block, right? And inside this acrylic block is a Dynastinae, a
nice
beetle.
Very cool.
Yeah. So to me, that beetle's so cool. It's just like a big, a shiny, armored, gentle giant, right? So I feel like, those are all kind of qualities that I'd like to manifest in the brand. So the gentle giant, something that people in Gentlemen Wake, it's like, okay, that works. There's like a lot going on there, and even the shape of the horns on the front of the rhinoceros beetle have like a reminiscent W kind of vibe, where like it feels like, okay, there could be something there. So that's where it came from, and now it's forever going to be linked for me.
That's a cool story, Tyler. We need some, like maybe ours will be the dung beetle. I think that's more of a decking around style, right?
We can think on something. Don't worry, Steve.
Here's one thing I'm kind of upset about. I'm upset that Omar, you didn't wear what you were wearing during the video, like those nice frilly.
Where is it? It's right here.
Come on, man. Put that thing on.
Man, it's hilarious. I bought that for like I did a parody of like Edgar Allan Poe kind of writing, like. Oh, and Steven, to talk about the handwriting thing, dude, you can't read that. Trust me. Like,
Tyler.
It didn't have to look legible. It was beautiful either way.
It was just like chicken scratch. Like I was just like, oh, I think it's supposed to look this way. Like I was like, wait, I was trying to remember like my old grade school like cursive writing classes. Like I don't know if I could do I loop or
That's funny.
Like cross there or like how do I do this? But yeah, it's Liza says she has a great.
Liza says she has it. I just told her to send it to us. I just told her to send it to us.
Oh my gosh.
So it's fun when you do that kind of stuff, when you do that kind of crazy stuff, and ends up somehow working, but yeah, it's cool stuff. But yeah, the writing on I bought like this is like this thing came with like a Harry Potter. It came with like a Harry Potter seal. It was like I don't even think it's a Harry Potter. It's like a bootleg, like Amazon product, right? Where
that's so good.
Oh yeah,
like different writing nibs or whatever. And look at this thing. I mean, on camera, heck, I mean,
it looks good on camera.
Oh yeah, dude, that looks so good.
Right? It's perfect.
Yeah, it's so good.
The process of like coming up with the ideas of like I'm like, hey babe, by the way, when you see the extra $150 Amazon charge, that's just random props.
That's the funnest part about doing a photo shoot. Like Tyler and I were on a video, and I was looking for stuff for a photo shoot, and Tyler's like, "Yeah, you should buy it." She comes in and she's like, "Don't buy that. I have this and that."
It was like 5 pounds of fake diamonds.
Yeah, it was like fake diamonds. And the minute she walks out the door, I hit purchase.
Yeah, so I bought like a bunch of like we're making fun of it because like a bag of doubloons. Who has a bag of doubloons in their house? I do.
Dude, I bet you don't have these.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god,
a bag of diamonds.
So good.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is when I ship out all the decks, people who buy that deck is gonna get diamonds in it.
That's fun. It's fun.
Dude, yeah. I never thought of it that way, except like until I met Steve. Like all the thought and all the little props that you have to buy that go into a video or a photo shoot, and like I mean, Steve posted a story the other day of him with like a broken doll face. I'm like, now you got a weird broken doll in your apartment for like whatever reason. Like, enjoy that.
We have so many random things in our place, like from all the skits that we do, and we did an '80s an 80s video like deck reviews from the like all 80s themed decks, right? So the VHS, the King's Wild Project VHS deck, all the decade of cards, all the 80s cards, the bicycle 8-bit deck, like all cards that were like 80s inspired. And we did like a magician dating tape, those old 80s dating tapes. And I had like a brick phone that I bought, a prop brick phone. It's just like it's all
so good,
random, like Magnum eye mustaches, and
you should take a picture of all the stuff you used for that video and post it up.
It's not
like all the cool stuff,
it's ridiculous. And my wife is my partner on these things, and she's just as ridiculous as I am. So it's fantastic.
We all know that she's the brain behind it all.
Yeah, she's. Right? She's a ventriloquist too. She's like right off the top. Controlling.
No. That's funny. That's pretty. The funny thing about it is like you don't really realize all the stuff that you've kind of gathered for this one shoot until after it's over and you have no way to put it, right?
No.
You have like, okay, well, I mean, it's cool that you can just keep that feather pen over there, like on your desk, because it's cool enough to do that.
Exactly.
But how much stuff do you guys get and you use that you just have to shove in a box in another, like in a closet?
My wife is watching right now, so I don't want to bring up. Okay, like I like keeping my marriage happy. Can we?
We won't tell her the secret door that she doesn't know about, where all that extra stuff is.
All that stuff.
The storage unit in the name of the Great Walenti.
Yeah, exactly. The Great Walenti. Yeah,
So I have a question.
that Great Walenti. What were you-
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Steve.
So I have a question. I know one of the hottest things to do, and this might be a question for you, Lotrek, is one of the hottest things to do is find a color for a deck, right? Is to find which color you want to use. And obviously, I know I used, the red, blue, and the black and the green before, but like these colors are totally different. What made you choose the colors that you chose? Because that's a whole big process in itself.
Well, I actually didn't choose those colors. Omar said that he wanted to have an Ocean edition and a Dusk edition. That was names that he was thinking about the deck. Okay, if you have those words in your mind, you automatically think of dark blue and teal and purple, etc. The problem was not to choose the colors, but to combine them. Because, okay, it's and this was the very difficult part, and actually it's not completely solved yet. Okay, we're very, very close to it, but we do little adjustments. The whole idea of the deck is something, as Omar said, elegant, classical, and those purple colors are not what you are thinking when you're thinking about the class and classical stuff. So,
right.
Yes, the problem was to make those colors match. Actually, you don't have too many choices. I mean, you have red, you have blue, as you said. You cannot easily have a brown deck or an orange deck. It may work. It may work at some point, but they're not the first choice. Those colors. That was the difficult part, to make those colors match. And you may think of a color, but when you see it printed, it does not work as you had imagined. And
Right.
I had this problem with the prototypes. We said we will have this purple color for the design and a dark blue for the background, but when you see it printed, it's not as you see it on the screen.
Right.
So you have to come up with something different.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, the theme will dictate the palette, right? The theme will dictate the palette. So now it's harder for in a case like the parlor, where the parlor, where's the palette there?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a little bit of that in the living room where I shoot. There's gold everywhere, right? So gold will definitely be a factor. There's blue. Okay, great. So we wanted it to be a classical kind of workers deck in a way. So it's designed to be red and blue in the traditional monochromatic style. So the parlor has that going for it. It's easy in that respect. But the Tempest, it's everything that word evokes, right? So what that evokes this torrential kind of windstorm of water and rain and in the ocean, right? And the ocean is beautiful in so many different ways. Like there's the turquoise Caribbean crystal clear blue, beautiful, and then there's the orange reflecting the orange of the setting sun against the purple sky, beautiful. And then there's the ocean at midnight where it's glinting just the moonlight off the edges of the waves, of the crest of the waves. Those are all beautiful versions of the ocean. So for me, the Tempest was like, okay, well, I said to him, I said to Lotrek, I said, look, these are the names that I'm thinking. I want to do Tale of the Tempest Ocean. I want to do Dusk. I want to do Midnight. And in the words, the palette is evoked.
Yeah.
It's about discovering what are the Lotrek mentions, like what are the colors that are going to complement each other. How can I create something that's bold, classic, striking, but not pretentious? I mean, there's so many
not loud,
right?
Yeah,
Because that
classy and
red,
loud.
that red magenta
Go,
is
go.
almost fuchsia, right? It's almost loud
Yeah.
pink. And you guys haven't received your prototypes yet, have you? Tyler?
No,
Not yet.
No,
This
not
week.
yet. Yeah.
this week.
Should be coming tomorrow or something, like or Monday.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you get them, and hopefully, you'll get a chance to see it for yourself, to kind of feel the vibrancy, right?
Yeah.
Life
We're excited.
decks, right? Because that to me was one of the most important things about the cards. The back design was like, I wanted them to be vibrant. I wanted to be alive. Like, and
Yeah.
I think they're gonna look great in cardistry. Hopefully, Cardist much better than I will use them, because I think they're gonna when somebody puts together some nice packet cuts and some nice flourishes and some nice fans and some nice cascades and waterfalls, it's all going to be perfect for the deck, because I think the forms, the shapes on the back of the deck in the vibrant colors will be very, very good for that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
No, without a doubt, those colors are going to pop, especially with the visual side of it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, when you're choosing colors, it's interesting, like you guys say, it with the idea evokes the emotion and it evokes certain aspects of the deck, but I think there's definitely and this is the difference between a good designer and a great designer, or a good creative and a great creative, where it's like, and I think a lot of people they want to be safe. They're like, okay, let's just do the standard colors. Like, we'll always be safe with the standard colors, like you have your blue, and everybody does a blue all the time, and everyone does a red. So there's your dusk and there's your ocean, So I think when you really think about it, and I think a lot of, even in my eyes, when you say dusk, there's so many colors that are involved, right? With dusk. And I'd be curious to see what people think. Obviously now they might be a little jaded, because dusk, you think of all these other colors. Maybe depending on where in the world you are, during dusk, you might only see orange.
Yeah.
You might only see red, obviously when you're editing photos or video or whatever, you see purple, blue, green,
right,
yellow, orange, red. You see all that stuff, so that where, maybe a creative might, invoke different colors. But I just think that there's definitely a different level when you are outside the box on your colors that, you pull from an idea. So I think you guys totally crushed it on that, and it's cool to see other colors. I'm sick. As much as I love blue, and as much as I understand the creation behind the blue and the red, is because so many people are used to those colors and they're familiar with it. But I'm so appreciative when people go outside the box and do other colors, and especially when they work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about those standard colors, right? Because they're standards for a reason. They're
right,
accessible. They're familiar. They're prominent.
They're nice.
They're nice. They're nice.
Yeah.
Black and gold. Chick, she mentions in the comments about the black and gold being a little expected, right? And in my mind, it's like, yeah, maybe it is a little bit expected, considering we've got this teal and this magenta.
No, it is not. When they see the
finished project,
they will say, "Oh, I didn't expect that."
But the midnight edition will have a silver gunmetal cold foil, on top of the black with the gold edges and the gold TGW. It's going to be a gorgeous deck.
That's going to be beautiful. That sounds amazing.
Gorgeous deck of cards. And it's unfortunate because we can't print prototypes with Cardamundi, right? So we can't have the cold foil version. We have to render it, and renderings are never live up to the reality, right? Like
Lotrek can print it. Lotrek can print it. Don't give them any more work, right?
The problem is that I really suck at renderings.
The treasured edition will have, the gold on gold treatment with the eggshell borders, again, with the gold gilding on the side. It's going to look like a brick of gold, hence the name treasured edition. It's going to feel, luxurious, and it will handle just as well as the Dynasty decks handle. Which, I mean, look, my Dynasty here is perfectly still gold gilded, and it's just the easiest deck to fan, and it's just like the smoothest. It's great. So it'll be the same gilding and on a quite frankly a better handling stock than this. This is the original B9 kind of thick super luxe stock. The new stock is the slimline,
Nice.
which is more in keeping with what we've come to know as like the traditional USPCC like thickness, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The traditional USPC thickness, the great linen finish that comes on the decks on the Cardamundi. Cardamundi has fast become my favorite, obviously. Producer of cards. I know USPCC has a gigantic, a monolithic support behind it, right? Where it's like they've been the best for so long that how dare anybody question it? But to be quite honest with you, the printing is terrible.
Yes.
The registration is not awful. Their customer service, unfortunately, has not been great. I don't want to like on live here kind of mention that they're bad, but they're not bad. They just haven't been to the level of other customer service. And I think there's room for improvement, and it doesn't mean I may never work with USPCC, but my experience with Cardamundi to this point, there hasn't been. There's no question that to me they are producing the best handling decks, best looking decks, best feeling decks out there, which is why I chose for the second deck as well.
100% agree.
I think that's great, and not just for like the side of handling and looks and stuff like that, but I think for me, when you are going through that period of who do I want to use? Do I want to use USPCC? Do I want to use Cardamundi? Do I want to use, another, deck creator or manufacturer to kind of give them a chance? I think what it comes down to is when you have someone like Lotrek or even someone that you respect that you're working with, you don't want to give their artwork to someone that's going to like make it crooked, or it's going to cut off half of it.
Yeah.
Or you might even get a deck where half of the artwork is totally off and not even on the deck.
I've seen those decks. I've seen people open their boxes and they bring out a deck and it's printed that way. And it's
Dude, we had Alex Pandrea on, and he said he got a deck of cards and he got an Alice in Wonderland deck in his deck of cards.
Yeah, like half was Alice in Wonderland, half was his deck.
Half, yeah. It's like that.
You pay for one, you get two.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, that's the thing that Cardamundi is. They're just everything about them is so far, in my opinion, beyond other companies. Their foil printing is next level.
There's another factor. They're in Europe, and for me, it's very easy to exchange stuff, send the boxes there, get stuff from them. There are no customs, nothing. You just put them in a box and you send them.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it's great.
I've had conversations with very prominent designers that have had significant qualms about working with USPCC. Have been very disappointed with the product working with USPCC, and who don't work with USPCC anymore if they can avoid it. And some of them are using deck printers that are less popular. They're using more. They're using EPCC. They're using producers that haven't enjoyed the luxury of having, again, the monolithic support that the United States Playing Card Company has had, but they've been dropping the ball.
Right.
And I think the great thing about free market, the great thing about living in a capitalist society is that you can go out and find somebody else to do it for you if you don't like
shop around.
Absolutely.
So that said, I'm extremely pleased thus far with how Cardamundi, and I think anybody who owns a Parter deck can attest to the quality that the deck comes right out of the box in. Like, it just fans gorgeously. It's so smooth in the hand, and that's what I want. I want that experience. I want people who buy these products to, in the end, say this was worth my $15, $20, $100, $400, whatever they end up.
When they printed the Charmus deck, which had a very sophisticated printing technique, I was actually a bit worried. How are they going to print it? And the truth is that the printing was as if I were there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Spectacular.
That is if Cardamundi's watching this, and I don't know, they should clip that. Lotrek, a master when it comes to like this stuff, just said that. I mean, that was that's all the testimonial. That's all you need. right?
Yeah.
All the-
100%.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So here's my question, Omar.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you kind of said that the Dynastine is going to make an appearance in every one of your decks, right? Bro, you've worked with Lorenzo.
Yes.
You've worked with Lotrek.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who else are you going to work with, bro? Like, you just, I mean, like,
Okay.
how are you going to, I mean,
I already have I am in discussion with okay, so let's start here. This our deck, Lotrek and I's Tempest deck, initially was not going to be the second deck in my campaign, in my
Gotcha.
run, right? So I did the parlor in 2018. God, it's been so long. Parlor in 2018 feels like a decade ago. And that campaign launched on April 15th, tax day, I remember. It was in the United States. Tax day on April 15th. And I fulfilled it by December. And we spent the entire 2019 with no deck to promote, right? No deck coming out. It wasn't for lack of trying, because I have an artist. I think my camera just died on us.
That's right.
1 second. Give me 1 second. I'll finish that.
Camera died.
It has not
Come
gone
on,
to us.
dude. You don't have. You don't
Just
have a batter. What you call it?
Here, just watch
Unfortunately, since this terrible storm laid
So
me
good.
bare,
Oh my god, that's too funny.
it's time to reflect.
Blow that up, Tyler.
Although it pains me greatly to leave you behind, my calling could not be denied. I've many visions that the mysteries I've sought, ones worthy of a magician with the name the Great Wylenti, would be easily found. But now I fear that overconfidence is caught.
All right.
Oh my god, that was the best thing ever.
I still stand by my statement that is beautiful handwriting. It looked legible to me.
Thank you very much. So yeah.
Oh my god.
So we initially had the idea to have another designer. I'm happy to say who it is because it's coming. It's Kevin Cantrell.
Oh, nice.
Familiar with
Kevin does beautiful work. Yeah.
Dang. Okay. That's
So the third TGW branded deck. This is a world premiere announcement. It won't
Nice.
be
yeah.
soon. We're still working on the Tempest. The Tempest is still our priority, but the deck is coming. Kevin Cantrell is the designer. He's been working on it for some time, but
Dang.
he's a very busy man, and we've been unfortunately other things have kind of popped up, and part of our arrangement is, hey, you have all the time that you need to work on it, right?
Right.
It is what it is. Having said that, I also have another talented artist about ready to jump on another project. As the ink is still drying, so they say, right? So I'm not ready to announce that yet, but that's coming, and I think that this artist, again, my goal is to literally curate a collection of decks that when you have them on your shelf, you will have a representation of the finest, most creative minds in playing cards.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Well played, my friend. Maybe you can announce the other designer on our show when you're on.
When that happens, absolutely. And then I'm actually in conversations with another couple of producers moving into 2022. So we have plans, and if things go well, I think this is going to be an exciting undertaking for us, and I plan on having Lotrek be involved. Honestly, I want Lotrek to keep printing our tuck boxes and to keep bringing his expertise to the fold. And if one day I work again with Lorenzo, I'd be thrilled. And if Lotrek and I were to get work again, there's no limit. The great thing about this is that, I mean, really, if the support is there, if the interest is there, if people are still involved in the campaign, they're still backing the campaign, they still feel that these are products worth having, there will always be more and more options and more ideas to come and more creativity. There's artists that I would love to work with that, I've often lauded, Jackson Robinson, Jackson's got so much on his plate. Like, I don't even think he would have time for me, but you never know.
Oh, dude, let me tell you something. Jackson, that guy is like nobody else. He will have time for you, even if he's making 30 decks. Like that dude is so good. I feel honestly, I think he must have cloned himself, and there's like 6 of him because like he's unreal, like unreal. And yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, so, there are a lot of people that I'd love to work with, and I think who are master designers in their own right. I like the idea of also, it won't just always be a kind of a classic design. I think TGW there's room for a cardistry deck, like maybe I find an artist that I think that's going to bring. Obviously, I won't be putting out a hype deck style. That's not my style, right? It's not going to get a deck that's just got my logo on the back and in two shades. That's not what we do, right? but look
at Lotrek. Lotrek's like,
I think there's a possibility for something like that one day, where somebody who's respected among the artistry community is approached by myself to do something for us. But that's far in the distance. Right now, I'm just concentrating on what we have kind of lined up, and obviously Tempest being number one. That's the number one objective here. Like, we want to make sure the campaign ends strong. We don't know where it's going to end. Like Tyler mentioned earlier, it's at 130,000.
So good.
And we don't know. I mean, there are 15 days left, and it may end at 150, which is what the first one did, and that would be beyond amazing. That would be great. Or it may not. It may go more. So, and it all depends. And hopefully the Dynastiny, I think, it's going to move the needle a little bit, just because it's an expensive deck to produce. So therefore, it's an expected deck to pledge. Yeah. Because of the things that we're doing on the tuck box, the things that we're doing on the cards that are elevating the deck a little further. That and also the limited number. I think the limited number, you're paying a little bit of premium, right? When you buy something that's limited. All of the decks, I should mention, all of the decks on the Kickstarter campaign are limited. We're never going to reprint the Tale of the Tempest in this manifestation again, right? Just like the parlor, there will only be a X amount of parlors or wherever they were printed. So, but the hyper number limitation of these decks, especially the 200 edition size version, I think those are going to be hopefully collector's items, because at the end of the day, like I mentioned, I am a master collector, as Lotrek says, and being a collector allows me to see the world through the eyes of a collector, right? And what collectors want, what they gravitate towards, what they find beautiful or worthy. And that's what I try to do with our projects, is try to capture that.
And you really do a phenomenal job with it, I have to say. I mean, I think, I polled people in the chat earlier about whether or not they had backed your parlor. And I think a lot of people who probably weren't in the community at the time that the parlor deck came out, that's probably on their list of decks they wish they could get or they want to get after the fact. So you've really created this brand around it. Yeah.
I hope so. Obviously, we're still we haven't even really talked too much about content creation. I know you guys are in the thick of it, right? You're grinding, you're making videos, you're building your audience, you're building your influence, and so much of where I'm coming from, it comes from that as well. Like, I would be nowhere if it weren't for the community that's built up around the channel, right?
Absolutely.
And the channel started off as something I just told my wife I wanted to do, and she was like, okay, sounds interesting, I guess. And I didn't really know what I was going to set out to do. For me, it was a vehicle, right? It was a vehicle to get all these crazy creative ideas out in a way that's cool, but always with like an end goal in mind. I always kind of had a strategy for what I wanted to do. But having the YouTube content creation and Instagram to a lesser degree, but having that community is extremely important, and building the community and building the brand is almost like a hand-in-hand thing, right? Because the more community you have, the more brand you can produce, right? Yeah. And the more brand you produce, the more community comes to the brand, right? Yeah. So it's like this constant like chicken and the egg scenario. It's like, what's building what's doing, And if anybody out there is a designer or a producer of playing cards or a content creator, my advice would be just to batten down the hatches, put your head down, and keep going. Right, like keep producing, keep creating, and ultimately build a sense of community, and then the rest hopefully comes from there. So to answer your question, yeah, one day maybe we will have a campaign that reaches an astronomical number of followers, or an astronomical
15 million.
No,
Thank
but
that's a good one.
There have been campaigns to reach 300,000. There have been campaigns that have reached 500,000, and I would be lying to you if I didn't say that that's not a goal one day, and because it is. But there are a lot of steps along the way, and we're going to try and absolutely maintain our humility and our connection to the base level of our audience.
So, yeah, that's good. That's huge.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So you say that you're a master collector, right?
Yeah.
Now, what makes you a master collector? Is it like becoming a master? You have to put 10,000 hours into something, right?
Disposable income, probably.
So I look at it this way.
Maybe non-disposable income that you kind of spend anyway.
Yeah. So is it like you have to put 10,000 hours into something to become a master at it? They say, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean, you can't put $10,000 in because that's not that much, right?
How it works is, at least for me, is I have 10,000 hours of collecting. Okay,
Yeah.
And when I say that, I don't mean playing cards alone, because over the course of my life, I've collected so many things.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of who you are. It's a little bit OCD, right? Like it's the little OCD in every collector. They want their edges pristine. They want their cards uncreased, like, or whatever. It's having that kind of mindset that makes you a collector, and you exercising that mindset in the form of collecting things. It hones what the taste, right, of the individual, right? Like the more you do it, the more specific you get, the more you know what you want, what you like, and that's what it is. It's doing it that way. It's building collections one thing at a time until you're happy and proud of the collection as a whole. It's a curation, right?
Yeah.
Museum,
Yeah. It's funny because I think
if you see my desk, you will understand why I will never be a collector.
No, Lotrek's a collector of everything, right? So whatever's on his desk, he's collecting it.
Whatever.
Whatever's behind him, he's collecting it. Whatever's over there, he's collecting it.
Steven Tyler. Aerosmith. Anyway.
Everyone gets there eventually.
We're going to stop marketing that.
So, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but to me, every video you make is part of a collection, right? It's a collection of videos on your channel. Your channel, when you open up your channel page and you see all these videos that you've created, you are curating.
Yeah.
You are producing a collection. All the thumbnails look a certain way. All the things, you know what I'm saying? And part of the OCD aspect of being a collector is also manifested in being a creator. And in Lotrek's defense, I think for him, it's also curating a collection of works that he has created.
Yeah.
So every deck that Lotrek has made, the Sanctus, the Liturgy, all of those decks that are beautiful decks, they in the end, right, they sit together on a shelf as a body of work. It is a collection. He is collecting things, but just not in the way that you and I might. So
I
think
for sure.
Definitely something to be
Plus, we know he collects musical instruments too. So,
speaking of that, that's a good segue, Tyler. We got a question in here saying, we got a question that someone asked if you'd play your flute.
Come again. What was the question?
Someone asked in the chat if you would play your flute.
Okay.
I'm actually surprised that the flute wasn't the background music for the trailer, to be honest.
I hadn't thought of that. I should have had Lotrek. He was already doing so much. I don't think we would have had.
It was such last minute. He didn't have enough time.
I can play a bit, but no the flute.
No.
Play whatever you want.
I can play with my Barry sax.
Perfect.
Oh, nice. A little sultry. It's a little sultry here.
Yeah, right.
I have it here.
Oh wow, look at that.
All right, ladies, get ready. Here we go. Lotrek's gonna serenade. Lotrek, is that clean?
This is crazy. This is actually a steampunk instrument, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it totally is.
just
Okay.
need some leather. I feel like it's
So good.
You're watching The Gentleman Wake, and on this episode,
That was so
geez.
good, though.
So good.
Very
Never
good.
cease to amaze us.
I honestly, like, I was waiting for him to pull out drums because I know he basically plays any instrument that catches his eye over there. So it always,
I
it
think
definitely blows me away.
that's where he got inspiration for all the foiling on his decks.
I will have to.
In the next video, I will play for you an Indian instrument.
Oh,
right, perfect.
Is it the sitar? Is it the sitar?
No. Saro.
Nice.
Lotrek, why haven't you produced a deck based on instruments? You should do something like that.
Because I don't make decks that relate to things I like.
What about wine?
I make, yes, okay, doing a deck about music.
Yeah.
It's not interesting for me. For
Interesting.
example, I have an obsession with religious themes.
Yeah.
While I'm an atheist.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense.
The decks that I like to design are around the themes that I like to see.
Right.
Mm.
For example, beautiful textiles, fabrics, or mosaics. Not necessarily things that interest me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I
I
don't
mean, it's
know.
kind of the same, right? It just because you like something
Maybe-
doesn't mean you have to make a deck about it.
Yeah, I love music, but okay, make a deck with the composers, for example. It's not interesting for me.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing I didn't come at you with like, "Hey, I've got this great idea for a deck about music."
Oh my gosh.
Well,
So now I know you mentioned there's still a lot in the works for the Tale of the Tempest deck, and I think one of the interesting things about the whole deck is the variation in the theme between obviously the Parlor and the Tale of the Tempest. I know we kind of discussed as well the idea that you're curating this collection around it. Have you already kind of built out the idea of what your future, like, I know you're working with several designers now, but do you have kind of a layout of the next 5 decks in your mind?
yeah,
Do they all?
I have titles.
All right.
Nice.
And do they kind of follow that similar like time frame almost? I mean, I feel like there's very much a more historical time frame to a lot of the decks you're creating.
Yeah, more of a classic approach. Obviously the periods, the 18th and 19th century are kind of a big time for playing cards.
Yeah.
It's kind of where they proliferated and they became. Obviously, they've been around much longer, but I think the Victorian era and the preceding time to the Victorian era, I think all of that kind of is famous among the card world degree. So I think a lot of that is informed by that, right? I think the Parlor was a physical representation of the literal part, right? The living room, the space where I make videos. There were aspects of all that stuff in the decks, right?
Right.
So you'll still see some of that moving forward, the Tempest was an idea that I had because, obviously part of my audience is people who like magic and magicians, and I wanted to provide them something that was still functional as a magician's deck, but also beautiful, and also had themes that they could relate to or that they liked or identified with.
Right.
Obviously, Wylenti does not exist. The Great Wylenti.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
The Great Wylenti, TGW, right? It was an analog for myself, and also it was a Houdini-esque kind of character that we could create, and the famous Tempest, the play by William Shakespeare.
Yep.
It brings images as well, and I was like, well, what if this Houdini-esque magician, the Great Wylenti, was also stranded on an island, and also on a ship's journey, and his journey was very much like the typical journey of the Darwinian explorer, and out looking for the mysteries of the world, like the characters in The Prestige, right? Like looking for the next trick that's going to take them over the top, the mysteries of nature, that what are they going to discover that is going to be really moving them to create new effects and new techniques. So that's where this Great Wylenti character came from, and mixing all those different allusions, all those different kind of historical, fictional, kind of all those different things that kind of I pulled together and to create like what the story of the Great Wylenti is.
Nice.
So
cool.
yeah, so I think obviously that character fits in well with what we're doing, what we did with the parlor as almost like a natural kind of extension of a lot of the artistic kind of motifs. But the Kevin Cantrell deck takes a step back in time, goes a little bit further back.
Nice.
And I think that there's going to be some other things that it still fits within the motif of like what we can expect from TGW, but also it expands upon it, and I think the deck after that will be a different kind of deck. I've already got the name for that one, and the designer that's working on that. So I think there it'll always be easy to identify, right? When you see a TGW deck, you'll always be like, it makes sense. It's never going to be like, oh, here's a deck about firemen. Like, like why? Why is there a Dalmatian on a fire truck? I mean, you're not going to get that from
right.
This is a good reason for it. But ultimately, the idea being like, hey, we're going to make decks that fit, that are going to feel cohesive, that are going to feel like a collection, just like Lotrek is interested in religious and sacro-religious kind of themes. I will always be drawn to certain themes as well. So I think that you'll see those kind of manifest themselves.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We should reach out and see if anybody has any questions for these guys. Do you guys have any questions about the decks? About
they asked what I'm drinking. It was white wine.
White wine. And Chick asked when we're going to get a fully custom deck. Honestly, Tempest is a fully custom deck.
Yeah.
The court cards may appear standard, and they are standard-esque. They are inspired by classic works, but they were fully custom. He drew every pixel or every line.
It's awesome.
Every choice, every color choice.
Yes, we have. We got used to call a fully custom deck with strange chords, etc. But even if you follow the standard rule, you can have a fully custom deck.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think a lot of people look at your or any standard themed court cards, and they don't see those as fully custom. Whereas me, I prefer that. I don't want to see like, I don't know, a big dragon as a king or a queen or like something like that. So, and that's preference, right? I think obviously all your decks are completely custom court cards, So
yes, I have. Yes, in the sense that I have never used the standard set. Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean.
In the beginning, I was more attracted to completely custom cards like those that Pipchick means.
Yeah, like butterfly and stuff like that, right?
Yes, but after a while, I started being attracted to altering the standard set. This does not mean that I won't make any more completely standard decks.
Right.
Actually, the next that we're working with Melina, my wife, is Codex.
Mhm.
It's inspired by medieval manuscripts. And, the cards will be completely custom.
Nice.
However, it's very intriguing to take the standard set and transform it into something new while keeping the cell.
Right.
Yeah.
And some decks, some themes are not so much about the chords themselves, but about the general idea or the general concept. Maybe in some decks, for example, the back design is more important, or the materials or the colors. Not every deck has to be super custom, new from scratch, never seen before.
Right.
For example, when I did the Golden Oath, I didn't want to have custom decks. Completely custom chords, because the focus was on the technique. It was on the foil. It was. I didn't want the spectator to be carried away by something different, by the chords or the design. I want them to focus on the technique which was used for this deck.
Yeah, it looks so good.
Love those chords. Yeah.
And obviously the draw here is this magnificent act.
Actually, with this deck, I wanted to. I was really ambitious. I wanted to make a new set of new classics.
Yeah.
Maybe it's too much to say that, but I wanted to keep the standard chords, but make them better. If I can.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I love what he's done with the Tempest quartz. This is a prototype in my hand.
Go on, be honest.
This is, look at this. I mean,
so good.
That's classic and in such a beautiful. I mean, this is gorgeous.
So good. Yeah.
There's so much more emotion to the face. I think that's the thing that really draws me into it, is while it's still recognizable as a king, there's so much more depth of emotion in it.
Yeah, my favorite of all of them to this point. The King of Hearts is up there, but I'll show you now. Hold on.
For me, the expression of the course is very important.
This guy, this Jack of Diamonds. Look at that.
That's so good.
He is not amused. That's so good.
He's got like this, right? Like this.
It's like the rock eyebrow.
Yeah, so but I also love like the little handlebar mustache, the blonde hair. Like it's just like very, very cool. Super. It's an elegant, extension of what we've come to expect from a standard card.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and that's what I wanted. I wanted a deck, and part of the mantra, the mandate even of the TGW is, hey, we're gonna make decks that are functional in every way. We want them to be beautiful for collectors, but we also want them to be functional for magicians, right? If a magician pulls a card out, they should be instantly recognizable, even if the pips are a little customized, even if the artwork is customized. To a person who doesn't normally look at playing cards, they're going to see this and think, yeah, that's a Queen of Spades, and maybe that's what Pip Chick means, is when are we going to see a TGW deck that kind of breaks that norm? We might on this next one. I think Kevin Cantrell has a unique style of his own, and if you're a fan of his work and if you've seen his decks, with the exception of Citizens, which uses standard quartz, you'll notice that he has a distinct style, and it's really something that you can't mute. So it's unmuted, right? So the next deck in the campaign on the TGW line, so to speak, will definitely have less standard, more custom feel. Alone. But that's cool too. I think it's great to kind of experiment and take things in slightly different directions.
I think that's the cool thing with with collaborating with brands, right? This is a chat that Tyler and I had. So nice.
Yeah, it looks
This is
so
a chat that Tyler and I had.
that's so vibrant.
You're a brand and he's a brand, and there's some things that he has to keep within brand, and there's some things which you have to keep that's in brand, and that's kind of where two great brands is a true collaboration,
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And obviously, maybe one day when there's time and resources available to me to do it, I might design a deck myself, and it might suck. And I'll just ask all my famous designer friends to give me like a thumbs up. But,
yeah, good luck with that.
It'll take me, longer than it would take Lotrek to print like 3 decks. But and that's saying something. But at the end of the day, like one day you might see that from me. I think I've got it in me. It's just one of those things that's going to take a lot longer than anything else. But ultimately, like that's what TGW is. It's a collaborative brand, right? It's like I thought to myself, hey, if Theory 11 can do it, right? Theory 11 doesn't design their own decks. They hire designers to design their own decks, and they've had a very successful career. And for love them or hate them, right? They sell a lot of decks, and if they can do it, and they got to start somewhere, why can't I? Why can't I? Start somewhere. I'm not Robinson in that I don't design my own decks. Jackson's built a very lucrative business, very busy business doing what he does, but he has the advantage of being the designer of his own decks.
Right. No,
I will always have the challenge of finding artists to feature and collaborating. But I think part of what makes the brand cool and accessible and exciting is that, right? Like you're never going to get something as great as Jackson Robinson is, as amazing a designer as he is, every deck is a Jackson Robinson deck.
Totally. 100%.
That could be a great thing, and that could not be a great thing. And one of the ways it's not a great thing is you don't get a chance to deviate from kind of what and all artists are going to tell you this. Everyone has a style. I talked about Giovanni Moroni in one of my episodes for one of the deck reviews that I did of his decks, and Giovanni has a style that is unmistakable, right?
Absolutely.
You know a Giovanni Moroni deck the second you look at it, just like I think Lotrek's decks are identifiable in that way. So the cool thing about the TGW brand is that when you have different artists that carry forth the same brand but offer it, do it in a different style and a unique style, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, it creates a new perspective for the brand.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think it gives the opportunity for other designers to kind of, even if it's not even their style, to kind of integrate their style with another style that is reputable or that is, something that obviously they agree to work with.
Right.
Because I think if you don't want to work with something, not because you don't like it or you can't do it or whatever the reason is. But I think when you bring something on like that, that's the fun part.
Let me say I've been tremendously lucky to this point because of obviously working with Lorenzo and Lotrek on the first 2 decks. Both of these guys didn't hesitate for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. I reached out to Lorenzo and I said, hey, I saw you work with Caroline. Do you want to do something? Sure. And I was like, what? Like I didn't even have to twist his arm. Like who's I, right? And this is, I got really lucky, right? Because I had a fantastic designer take a chance, on somebody who had a YouTube channel with 5,000 subscribers. It's ridiculous if you think about it.
I don't think it is. I think you guys are both. You are so passionate. You have such a strong brand and presence. It doesn't matter if you have 3,000 followers or 5,000. I don't think that's what Lotrek is looking at. I think what he's looking at is the idea behind your brand. Does it coincide with what his ideas are for a deck that he wants to create? And does, and I think, I think it was a perfect match. I think I wasn't surprised at all. And of course, when Lotrek, being like you reaching out and him saying yes, he's the GOAT. When he agrees, of course you're going to be shocked, right? But I see it and I'm like, perfect matchup.
Absolutely. Like when I sent him I think I sent him like a Houdini poster, and I said the Tale of the Tempest, and he's like, love it. Like that was his response. I'm pretty sure his direct verbatim response was love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
When Omar approached me, he said that okay, if he asked me if we could do something together and if I had any ideas, and I told him about an idea I had, and he said, "Yes, interesting."
No, did I really? I don't know.
What about this?
Asshole.
Well,
It's his way to say bullshit.
Yeah.
No.
Good
Well, and
for
I
you,
think
dude.
I think
But
the interesting
his
thing about it.
idea his
Go ahead.
idea was much better, and I loved it. Although
That's cool.
from the moment he told me about his idea, I was thinking, okay, great chance to get in trouble. How are we going to do that? Because there are so many different, as Omar said, there are many different elements incorporated in this theme. We have Shakespeare, we have magicians, we have
The ocean.
Tempest, we have ships, we have
Yeah.
and the style, this late 19th century style that Omar and I love,
Yeah.
and it was a real challenge. I think we did a good job.
I would agree. I think the majority of people would
It's
agree.
not too bad.
Yeah. I mean,
Whatever.
let's go take a look here. 1,110 people would definitely agree. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that part of the challenge also was like how the video, right, was I need to somehow marry all these ideas into one thing, like, and have the campaign make any sense. Because if you go on this campaign, you're like, what is this? The Tale of the Tempest? Is a what? Who is it? A Shakespeare deck? Is it? And a lot of it was like, okay, the video has to kind of set the tone here, like for what this is. Are people going to get it? Like that was my thought. Was like, oh wait a second, are they going to get this whole Great Wailenti thing? Like,
Yeah.
are people just going to be like, what, the Great Wailenti? I thought it was Gentleman Wake. Who the hell is this guy? So the fear, the terror strikes, and you're like, oh God, like did I communicate the idea that we want? And we had so many different like thoughts, like, okay, it's about a ship, but it's also about a magician, and the magician is on the ship, and the ship is, like what? Okay, whatever works, man. Like
I think that in this theme, each one sees what they want to see,
Yeah.
yeah,
because there are so many aspects. Somebody will be drawn to the sea aspect, somebody else to the magic aspect,
right,
and yeah.
I think one of the most important parts about it is that we all want to connect to something, right? No matter what it is, whether it's a relationship, something that we collect, something. There's always a reason for it. If we like dogs, we have a lot of dog stuffed animals. We have figurines. We have whatever the hell you want to collect. But I think what it comes down to is when we see something and it touches us in a way, whether it's something that we went through, nostalgic wise, or anything like that, that's what's going to pull us in even more. And when you create a story about something that people can picture themselves being that guy on the boat writing this, and I think the way it was done was just so perfectly executed, and
show any face, my face,
I think that's strong. That made all the difference, and I think it totally told the whole story where you don't even have to read anything. You already know the story,
right?
And I think that's important. Tyler and I talk about that all the time, and Alex Pandre is a big proponent of that. Is create a story around your deck and do the work. So the amount of work that you guys did and put into it shows at how successful it's been. So congratulations on that, man. I can't wait to see where it finishes at. It's going to skyrocket once those other add-ons come up, and we can't wait to see what you guys have coming.
yeah, I mean, you're already pushing towards 700%, which is impressive. So
Before we wrap up, though, I do want to mention that there I will be announcing like kind of like the structure for how all those updates are going to work. Coming in the next couple of days, right? As we kind of start getting things, it's going to be similar, I think, for those of you who are followers, who are backers, who might be interested in knowing. I think the structure will be similar to how we did the Treasured Edition. There will be openings of new tiers that have the Dynasty deck. It's always going to be a diminishing return, right? Because we're starting at 1,000 Treasured and now going to 777 Dynasty,
Right.
and eventually going to end up at 200 of the final edition of the deck. And so I think the competition will get a little steeper, especially like I said, there's only going to be 100 of those slots down there.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's unfortunately the only way to do it at the time. And I know it's kind of inconvenient. And I apologize for the inconvenience. And I know people are like, well, I have to, it's like signing up for 5 different campaigns. I'm like, I get it. I understand. Unfortunately, the Kickstarter has recently rolled out a new add-on feature that you can like do add-ons, but it doesn't let you specify who can add on things. So it's not really the way we want to do things. We want to be careful to make sure that we don't oversell decks. Right? We don't want to sell more than 1,000 Treasured. We don't want to sell more than 777 Dynasty. We want to honor that number. Right. So because of that, it's a little bit inconvenient, but I hope that people will understand that. And in part, that's why the premium tier existed, because we wanted to give the people in the premium tier the opportunity to say, hey, you don't have to worry about any of this moving forward. You're going to get all of the decks in the premium tier package. So that's why we did that. And who knows, maybe I'm going to float it out there, and anybody's welcome to chat, to mention in the chat. I'm going to talk about it on United Cardists. There may be a possibility that I might open up some more slots for that premium tier if the demand is high enough. It's still it's a tremendous deal because it's on top of absolutely getting the decks that you pledge for. You're also getting a sizable discount. It's not an enormous discount, but it's a discount. And I think at the end of the day, when you see the quality of the work that Lotrek is going to put into these things, it's going to be undeniable. The value will be undeniable. So anyway, I wanted to say that to keep a lookout, and hopefully that people will get excited about that and want to jump on board and be a part of that. And
what do you
own a Lotrek deck? I mean, these are Lotrek decks. Okay, these last 2 decks are Lotrek decks. They're not Cardamom decks. They are not. They are.
Reminds me
of
of
edition Lotrek decks.
What you said about the price reminds me of my favorite quote by Warren Buffett.
Mm-hmm. Oh, jeez.
Price is what you pay. Value is what you get.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think actually is the tiers going to be the same? Like, you're going to introduce more tiers, and obviously the premium gets it, and do the brick backers get to add it on, or
the brick backers are in a unique position where they can add on items now. However, I might create a new brick tier just because it's going to get a little messy for me. And I want to make sure that I don't oversell.
Right. That's smart. I'm a huge proponent of efficiency, right? And I think it's very inefficient to be like, message me if you want this deck. And I think that's where things can get lost. It's not smart to do that, because you might miss a message. You might misinterpret a message. You're not going to misinterpret someone signing up for a tier.
Unfortunately, and anybody who's ever run a Kickstarter campaign knows this, but no matter how explicit you are with the explanations, no matter how reiterative you are with explaining something over and over and over and over again, there's going to be people who miss it, right?
For sure.
How do I do this? Oh no, how do I do that? Even though you literally they scroll 2 centimeters down and there's the explanation. But they don't see it, and that's expected. I mean, some people are foreign, they don't speak English. There's 1,000 different reasons why that could be the case, but we try to be as straightforward as possible. I want people to know. Like one person the other day sent me, upgraded their pledge by 3 times the amount of the treasured, and they wanted 3 treasure decks. And I had to say, look, although in the end it hurts the number, right? Because it comes down out of the pledges. I don't want to not be forthcoming and not be obvious. Like, hey, look, now that he is, you can only pledge for 1. We want to keep it 1 to a backer for now. Right now, there's still like a chunk of treasured editions that have not been accounted for. If the day comes that those treasured editions are not accounted for and the campaign ends, you better believe we're going to open up the opportunity for folks to add on additional ones, because I know some people want. I have a feeling the Dynasty and the final deck version will probably sell out
Yeah, I can imagine with lower numbers like that. Well, and I think it's interesting you even mentioned too, and like Steve said, he's a proponent for efficiency there. That whole complexity when you do get in campaigns where there's so many add-ons is the exact reason why there's things like Backer Kit and Pledge Manager where you can, have all this handled, but at the same time, there's a cost associated with it. And so trying to build that in on your end is a really smart move because I think so many people do just say, "Oh, forget it. I'm just going to go with Backer Kit or Pledge Manager," and it's
I may still do Backer Kit. Honestly, I use Backer Kit on the parlor, and people come on late and they pre-order, and I think it in that respect it pays for itself. I think even whatever the cost is inconsequential in what you get from ease of kind of managing the backside of these things, the back end of things.
Yeah.
So I think I will end up doing that, but I want to make sure that people engaged in the campaign are comfortable and excited about what they're getting, and I've had some people say, well, $415 because that was the premium price tag, right? $415 is a lot, and you only get one brick. Like, what's going on here? Like, some other people get two bricks. I said, no. I said, just be patient, right? Just have confidence that you will get the value that you will get more value than the price, to use Lotrek's terminology and Warren Buffett's terminology. You will get more value than the price that you pay. Okay, and I think at the end of the day, people are going to be very excited about that. And even if you distilled it down to a level of price, it's still at a discount, right? Because of the stuff that I'm planning to bring to you. I think when this metal card that I'm working on is done, I think people are going to be like, "Oh man, that's really cool." Guess what?
Yeah.
Premium backers are going to get that for free. So other people are going to be paying $40 for it. So there's a difference there that I think is important to make note. And also, like, to be honest, I look at other campaigns. I know what they charge, right? Like I know that other people make metal cards and charge $80 for them. I'm not going to charge $80 for my metal card. I'm going to charge $40 because my strategy is not to. I don't want to milk my customers.
Yeah.
I want my customers to be returning customers. I want them to feel
like
the value is going to be there every single time that they come to a campaign with the TGW initials on it, right?
Absolutely.
Amen, brother. Amen. I'm a big supporter for that, as everybody knows. So
exciting.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I think let's do like 10, 15 minutes of questions, or maybe not that much, but so let's do some questions. Try to get some cool questions in here for you guys. If anybody has any questions for these legends.
See what we got here. And I know one of the questions that I actually saw earlier came from Luke.
That was a great question.
Yeah. So, and this is not so much necessarily related to the deck, but I think related to your brand in an interesting way. But the question is, a gentleman is a dying breed. What advice would you give to those out there to remind them that a gentleman's characteristics and remind them of a gentleman's characteristics? And would you do a deck on how to be a gentleman?
George Bernard Shaw once said, a gentleman is a person who brings more value into the world than he takes from it. Okay?
So
and
good.
Talk about something that you can apply to brand, right? I mean, that's number one, right? If you want
absolutely
to be anything, you want the brand to bring more value into the world than it takes out of it. So I don't agree with a lot of George Bernard Shaw's kind of ideas. He's kind of a little bit kooky, but his statement on what a gentleman is actually accurate, and I think it's worth it. It's a mantra worth living by. And I think the idea that, hey, I am going to conduct my life and my business and my brand in such a way that the people who benefit from it are the people receiving it, not people making it, right? Like, yeah, there's going to be benefits for us. I'm not going to lie. Like, this is a business after all. Businesses are in the nature of businesses to profit, right? Like to make, a sustainable income, right? But at the end of the day, like, I want folks to understand, and that's one of the things that we did with Parlor when we added all those tremendous add-ons and people gave all that stuff for free to people who pledged, because honestly, like, and why we're doing graphics on the inner tuck box, and Lotrek is designing a brilliant brick box, because we don't have to. People have already pledged a brick. They can just get a brick of decks, but that's not what we want. We want them an experience there. Like, everything that I admire in other brands is following that idea. And it doesn't have to be like playing card decks. It's everything. It's like you buy as maligned as Apple products are, you buy an Apple product and the product comes in a beautiful box, and the act of unboxing that product is part of the experience, right?
Yep.
And the same thing goes for, you buy a PlayStation and it comes in a nice, like all that stuff is part of the process, and you want your brand associated like that. Like that's an association you want. So my answer to you is, how do you remind people that being a gentleman is still a thing? It's value. That's you have to just bring value to people's lives, and it doesn't matter if you call it a gentleman or not. You're being a gentleman when you do that.
Yeah, I think you're either a gentleman or you're not.
Many
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah,
we buy things for the experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
We want to have them for the experience, so everything counts. From the appearance of the product, from the love that was put into it, to the delay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lotrek's like the uncle that's late to like a party. He wants to make an entrance. That's kind of like with the deck. We want it to be late because it's making an entrance.
Building the anticipation.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm so late that I'm rather making an exit.
Yeah. I'm here. Goodbye.
So another good question that came in was along the idea of the fact that you're changing designers, at least currently, for a lot of the decks. Have you ever thought about also the idea of printing with different manufacturers, similar to what like Jaspa's does?
I toyed with the idea. I get quotes, right? I get quotes from, I put the feelers out. Like even on Tempest, I got a quote from USBCC, and I want the value too.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a customer also, right?
Yeah.
So I want to feel valued, and I want to feel like I'm getting the value that I pay for.
Mm-hmm.
And up to this point, I have only found that value to be with Cardamundi. Now, that doesn't mean that's always going to be the case. It may very well change. Things always change. Cardamundi may decide that they're not going to give me the value that I expect. Another company might come along and give me more value than I anticipated. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna do the thing that I can do to make sure that that value transcends me, goes through the process of the TGW brand to the customer and the end product, right? So, I'm a vendor of Cardamundi is a vendor of mine. Just like I will be a vendor to the person who buys, the TGW decks. So to me, it's like I'm looking for the best quality, and right now, for what I'm trying to do, the best quality is Cardamundi. The part of the process is like, hey, they not only do they not have print registration issues, but the cold foil is just really cool.
Amazing, yeah. They do such a good job.
And the linen finish is great too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I really think that Cardamundi excels with their foil, especially in comparison to Metalux, like night and day.
Metalux is very inconsistent, but I would say that obviously hot foil is something that now I'm experimenting with. Not to give too much away, but with Lotrek, we'll see some application of hot foil, something that we have not done on TGW brand deck, and nice. I think that it's probably going to open an appetite within me to continue to do that, and that means that Lotrek will probably be more involved in some future projects, hopefully, some level, because I think that there's value there, and I think people enjoy that value and they like it, and I want to keep doing that. So,
absolutely.
The answer to your question is long-winded, but for now, I'm gonna kind of keep the way that I'm doing things.
Nice, that's good. Now, being a master collector, we ask this question to a lot of people that we have on here, if not everybody. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite deck, not including your brand?
It's hard to do that, right? It's hard to say that. And
of course it's hard to do that. That's why we ask the question.
I always say that. It's hard. It's a hard question to answer.
Of course.
I feel like it changes consistently or constantly, and there are a top 5 decks that are really important to me that I feel like are kind of seminal works. I often speak about them on the channel. Like I this gentleman to my right, left.
He's actually on. Well, to me, he's on your left, but
He's on
that's
my
okay.
left. He's on your the left side of the screen. You know, his Arabesque deck is one of my favorite decks of all time. It's a beautiful deck. You know, Lorenzo's House of the Rising Spade, gorgeous, phenomenal deck. You know, there's several King's Wild Project decks that I think are fantastic, and some decks by Uzi, which are just
Nice.
amazing. And you know, so it's hard for me to say, okay, this is my favorite deck because it changes. But
Yeah.
you know, one day we might get a top 10 decks of all time, and then people are gonna have to put my feet to the fire because I'll have to say which one is number one.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't want to think
hear
about
you.
that's a tough one.
There's not only one number one. I mean, this question is it's fun, okay, but sometimes you have things that you equally love.
Yeah.
You cannot say that I prefer this to that.
Right.
And you don't have to do it.
Yeah,
It's like okay, I don't have children, but I guess most people who love their children cannot say that I love this one more than the other.
My mom loves me more than my sister, just so you know.
I'm not talking about your mother.
I wouldn't be surprised if my mom's watching right now and she just can't respond.
She's not logged into YouTube yet.
She doesn't know how to log into YouTube. Otherwise, she'd be spamming the crap out of this. We'll have to give her a login next time.
So one of the other questions that did come in here was, how can you build strong brand identity? I think that's a very deep question. I think we touched on some parts of it throughout the discussion, but if there's anything you'd like to add, the idea of the value providing or the involvement with the community aspect.
Yeah, there's a book. I can't remember the name of the author right now, but it's about specifically about branding, and he talks a lot about like there's different aspects, a different kind of rule set that you want to follow when you're trying to build a brand, and having a clear kind of theme, a message behind your brand is important, right? Like people follow brands more so than they follow, like Lotrek mentioned earlier, alluded to earlier. It's more than just the product. It's more than just the design. It's more than just the colors, the textures, the materials, the techniques. It's the experience of the brand, right? Like at the end of the day, the experience of the product that you buy is what you're going to take away from. So when you put together an audience, a customer base, a backer list, followers, subscribers, who can all get behind the idea of your brand, I think that's number one, right? So that's like the number one thing. Like you want people to identify with the message of your brand. Right. Like, okay, so your brand is about, you know, I always say in the beginning of my videos, and it changes week to week sometimes, but like I'll say the go-to place for cinematic deck reviews, the go-to place for the playing card enthusiast, I'm never repeating myself, but in a way, it's all the same thing, right? It's all like, hey, this is a spot where you can come if your mindset is the same as mine to look for beauty, elegance, utility in all the same places.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's I think that unifies the community. That builds a strong sense of cohesion in the community, right? Where people like I'm seeing people in the list of chatters here that I've seen in my channel for years.
Yeah.
Right? And these are people who some of them I've had conversations with, you know, like text, you know, commenting conversations on the channel. Like I had like 300 subscribers. Of course I was going to respond to, you know, whoever it was. And that's important because that kind of builds, that will only just make things better and better and better and better moving forward and stronger. So I think that brand building begins with, you know, creating a message that everybody can get behind. And then that's what identity is. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Good words for sure.
So
I think it's really cool seeing it. Sorry, go ahead, Ty.
No, I was gonna say I think. Don't even go for it, Steve.
I was just saying, I think it's cool just watching different brands do what they do, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, I'm a big, what's the word? Stickler, I guess you could say.
About brands, yes.
About brands. If you show me that you're not a good person, then I'm not going to support your brand, period. You know, I don't care how big you are, how popular you are. I'll tell you if you're being a shitbird. Like, I will tell you, like, out in the open, that you're being inappropriate, or I don't even care if you're a giant or not. But I think watching that progression and watching the people that do care about their brand, not just because of the money, but because, like you said, Lotrek, it's all about the value and how you want to present yourself. You know, and I think that's the most important thing, where a lot of people, when they come into any game that they're in, they don't necessarily think that way. You know, their kind of personality shines through, and it's kind of hidden in that brand, and it kind of trickles out here and there, you know. And so when you have a brand that is through and through, it's really
there's some people
cool.
that you look at, you can say, you know, and I get that, the whole idea of like, hey, the person behind the brand needs to be accountable to a degree. Like you don't want to support something that's run by an asshole. Like, that's just
right.
You know, like as much as you love Tesla, like Elon Musk can be a little bit of a dick sometimes, right? Like, like, you know, and he's a brilliant guy and he's admirable in so many ways, but I think he kind of gets in his own way a little bit. Like, and you know, this is me punching up, right? Punching way up. Like, I need one of his like rocket ships to get up there to punch him.
Yeah. Well.
But there's an aspect to that, and I think like you look at some people who have had success in our little small niche, you know, that aren't small, right? Like, you know, Alex Pandrea is a good example. Pandrea is a great guy, like super nice.
Yeah,
just a wonderful person, right? Like, I went to Vegas to hang out with him. I never met him before. I just said, hey, I'm coming out to Vegas. Do you want to hang out? He's like, yeah, let's do it. And like, he was like my tour guide for like 3 straight days, right? Like, you know, he took me everywhere. He introduced me to people. I met Andre Jick. He introduced me to Andre Jick. So like, he's been really, really cool. Just a really gracious person, like willing to like appear in my videos and do the thing. And like, I'll just like chat with him. I'll text him and be like, hey dude, you want to, you know, do a video together? Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Like, that's really cool. That's important. And it makes you feel better about the Knock brand. And some people have their, I mean, pun intended, knocks about Knock, right? Like, you know, like they aren't the most, you know, interesting design wise. I'm sure Lotrek would agree. They aren't not to put them on the spot, but they design wise, there's really nothing going on there, right? Like,
yeah.
Get it? Like, that's part of the nothing only color. That's the whole brand mythos, right? But you can feel better about being a part of a fan base or about buying one of his decks, despite the fact that some people would call it, you know, a lazy or whatever,
right?
Because of who he is as a person, because he's a cool guy. He's actually very, very decent. He's a decent human being. And I don't know Chris Ramsey, and I don't know Peter McKinnon, and I don't know some of these other bigger stars, so to speak, that in our realm. Obviously, you know, Chris Ramsey's a good example because he produces cards and he's a YouTuber and he's a very successful one at that. But you know, I think that they must have some magnetism to themselves, to who they are. Otherwise, I don't think they can grow that way. You know, I think there has to be some kind of level of genuineness, right? And if you are genuine to who you are and to what you believe, then that comes across. You know?
Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
I don't know if you guys can tell I talk a lot.
Dude, that's what this show.
This is a talk show. We're okay with this.
Lotrek can't get a word in edgewise. I'm over here.
Here's the cool thing. Here's the cool thing. And Lotrek knows this. You know, he's been on the show, and you know, just so you know, we're gonna have Omar on the show for a normal show where we'll talk more about him and different things like that. You know, obviously, we haven't had him on yet, and we have that in the works, just so you know. Yeah. So, what do you have to say, Lotrek? You look like you're ready to spit some knowledge there.
As he's still holding up to the saxophone, though, I'm waiting for him to drop his soundtrack.
He's gonna play our outro when we have our outro. He'll play the music, and that will outro us.
There we go.
No, I just wanted to say that nowadays the way that people are buying things has changed.
Yeah.
Previously, you were going into the shop you were taking the product, you were paying, and okay, now you're buying from all over the world,
Right.
and what is essential is the trust.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think a brand should do everything to build trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think there's nothing more important than this, to feel that people trust you and your customers, to be assured that you won't betray them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I always enjoy that. I mean, in Crypt, people bought that expensive deck without knowing anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the only one that could do that.
Very cool.
I really love that. I mean, it shows that I have built something that is really valuable.
Yeah.
People trust me, and they know that I will never betray them.
Yeah.
They can be assured that I will always delay.
But we know that. We already know that.
Trust that too. But you know what though? Like, to speak to Lotrek, I wanna say something real quick about him, because when we were talking initially about whatever this last deck is going to be, we had some ideas. I thought, well, initially I was like, I floated the idea of maybe putting inside a bottle, right? Like the impossible bottles, right? Because it kind of fit the whole campaign. And I think I still am going to offer Tempest decks, Tempest in a bottle. I still am going to offer that as we kind of move forward. But this final deck was going to be so special, and no one was ever going to see it if it was in a glass bottle, right?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, like, what's to stop anyone from just putting the blank deck of cards in the bottle? Like right? Like, this box is living in a bottle. No one's ever going to look inside the bottle. No one's ever going to look inside the deck. Why do you have to even put energy or effort into that? But that's not Lotrek. Lotrek's like, no, I mean, if this bottle breaks for whatever reason and they open this deck, I want them to feel like, hey, damn, this was hiding in this glass bottle this whole time. So, because of that, the decision eventually, and because of my conversations with other people I respect regarding this, we shied away from making this final deck a bottled version, because we wanted to give people the opportunity to behold the beauty that we're going to put into it. But it was a testament to Lotrek's personality and to his work ethic and to his desire to not let down customers who trust him, to make sure that the deck, even if it existed inside a bottle, was going to be beautiful.
Right.
Alternatively, we can do that, but with plastic bottles, so that we can make sure that they won't break.
Or you can just make them with screw-on bottoms.
Yeah.
Something safe, anyway.
I love
That's
it.
great.
I love it.
That's great. Guys, amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so coming
You know,
in.
it's honestly been a pleasure having you on. We've really
Yeah.
had such a great time, and obviously we always like chatting with Lotrek, but Omar, it was wonderful getting to know you a little bit better and
Likewise.
just hearing about all the story behind the deck. I mean, again, I think so much went into every aspect of it, so much passion and emotion, and it really does shine through.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for being a gentleman, both of you. We appreciate you and respect you both for having
you.
such class.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
of course,
thank you.
anytime, Lotrek, you know that.
And thank you to everyone who came out to watch the live.
We have arranged something. You remember, we have arranged something.
Yes, we have
Going
something
with
coming
card.
up. Just so people keep an eye out. Lotrek and us have something coming up that we have to figure out when he has time that we can do it.
When
But,
I get rid of Mr. Gentleman.
Mr. AH was that his new nickname?
There you go.
When I get rid of Mr. Wailenti.
Yeah.
And we really do appreciate.
Before we
Oh, go ahead,
leave,
Steve.
I need to hear Omar say Walenti. The way he says the great Walenti is so cool.
The Great Wailenti.
Walenti. Yeah.
Like
it's so cool.
there's a long accent over the Y that really it really carries it out. It's perfect. I love
cool. It sounds cool. Every time you say it, I'm just like, so
I'm
cool.
Cuban American, right? So my accent is a little unique, right? 'Cause
Yeah. No, it's cool.
obviously English I feel I speak English particularly okay, right?
Yeah, no, you're very articulate, actually. So if
It-
anyone
it-
has ever
it-
told you otherwise, they're crazy.
So,
it's the mystique.
so having the a little bit of the Spanish, the little Latin accent kind of makes my vowel sounds a little different sometimes. Like
Yeah.
in the video, I say like bye. The way I said bye or something, it was like, why did I say that way?
Dude, I ask myself why I say things all the time. Nobody understands me. The thing about you and I is the way you pronounce words, people are like, oh, that's so cool. The way I pronounce it, people are like, what the hell is he saying?
Yeah.
Like, dude, what is wrong with you?
It's so
That's the
good.
difference between you and I.
It's so good. But no, and we really do appreciate everyone who came out to check out the live tonight. Before we even get close to signing off here, I just want to say, if you have not checked out the Kickstarter yet, please do so. We will link to that in the description below, as well as the comments. It's also pinned in the live comments right now. Go check it out. The decks are absolutely beautiful. We're so excited to see what else is going to be coming out as well.
You mean that there are people watching that haven't pledged yet?
Pledged.
You
I don't
never know.
man. I don't know. You know, if you haven't pledged, go pledge right now. Also, if you're not a follower to Deckin Around,
absolutely, yes.
Hit the button. We have amazing stuff coming up. We have some crazy stuff that
I want to say
we're going to announce. We have some. That's blank. This is what we're going to announce. We have some great stuff that we're going to announce, and yeah, definitely follow us. And we have more Lotrek.
The roster of I'm privileged. I feel privileged and honored because the roster of folks that you've had come on your show is very impressive for the amount of time you've been putting into this, and a testament to the quality of what you're doing. And congratulations. And
thank you.
And
we really do appreciate it.
You know, I see a lot of myself in what you guys are doing, and in different ways. But like the way you guys are growing your channel is very much the way a slightly different approach than I did, but that's makes it beautiful, right? Like, but you have the same kind of attention to detail that's important.
We appreciate that. Just do us a favor. Don't watch our first few episodes, okay?
You know,
fame, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's always good to look back and be like, wow, we've really come far.
Writer back review, it's terrible.
And for anyone who's watching this who doesn't subscribe to Omar's channel, The Gentleman Week, we'll have a link to that below as well. Make sure to subscribe. He drops hands down the most cinematic deck reviews you will ever see, and just does beautiful work altogether. I mean, look at his background now. Like that's just a room in his house, and it looks gorgeous.
See, there's a big difference between the stuff that he had. So earlier on in the conversation, he's like, my study. Okay. I need to adopt that word rather than saying my office. You know, like he has my parlor or my study. I say my office. I'm from now on, from here on out, you all heard it here first.
I will adopt it too.
Yeah. It's called
very
my
elegant.
study.
Yeah.
I love it.
You're looking at my study now.
Yeah.
You got a library there behind you for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. But
awesome.
Well, thank you again so much, everyone. We really do appreciate you coming out. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Like Steve said, we have some phenomenal announcements coming up soon for the channel, including some more special live events coming up, some merchandise, stuff like that. So keep an eye out. And again, just because we have another live coming up this Thursday, I'll throw out a quick announcement here for it. Make sure to tune in this Thursday. We're going to have Casey Kathleen on the show, amazing magician, picked it up in quarantine, has one of the best teachers, so no surprise, she's accelerated amazingly. But it's going to be a really fun episode, guys, so make sure to check it out.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you in the after party in a minute.
Yeah. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.